Welcome back, guys. And today, what we are going to do is we are going to build one application with the help of GenAI on AWS platform. So this is a part of our capstone project where you will be asked or you will be given a task to to build application uh, for generative AI. So what are the things we need when we build application in through generative AI? So let's go through the problem statement and the other stuff. Let's start with that. So as you know, this is our foundation works for education, nutrition, and opportunity. This is a foundation classes. This is a non-profit organization. So let's start with our capstone project. What is the problem statement? Generative AI models can be invaluable resources when developing applications. We know that. Using them, provide expert level advice and assistance can greatly speed up the application deployment, application building as well. So in this project, you will access generative AI models, maybe the NOVA models, and use it to develop and deploy applications hosted on AWS. So what are the prerequisites for this capstone project? The Bedrock, we have SAM means serverless access model, and Python coding language, right? So there are, in one go, we cannot deploy, we cannot build. This is quite a long lab and lengthy lab. So we'll go ahead and understand the steps first, and then we'll go by step by step. So first, you understand the step what we are going to do, and then we will deploy those. So here, more importantly, how you write the prompts basically to build the application. So as usual, the first step is to log into a console, then you go to the Bedrock model, and then use the generative AI to create the SAM template. You need to create the template. This is something very critical part. Then deploying the SAM template, and then implement your, deploy those, the function using generative AI. So there are 5 steps. We'll go one by one. This lab quite long, so let's start with that. So, let me give some introduction about that. The generative AI can be invaluable resource. We know that, but we will be using Amazon Q to generate AI assistant, and it is designed to be used with a little or no setup configuration. So we will be using Amazon Q, Amazon Bedrock, Visual Studio, Copilot plugin. So there are many ways to make use of generative AI and LLM when deploying applications. Developer often make use of Coco, means Copilot plugin for Visual Studio Code, ways to model AWS and Q and AWS Bedrock. Right? Let me. So let's start with our first step. That will be very straightforward. The first is that we need to make sure that the services which is available in US East Coast 1, so in Virginia. Okay. So we'll make sure that we are in the Virginia. That's fine. Good. What is the next step? Next step is we need to go to Bedrock, right? We need to go to Bedrock. So maybe here is there, you can find it out. Otherwise, you can just type in the services AWS Bedrock. Now here, this come to the test, and then playground. Go to the playground. Click on the playground. Click on the water detection tokenizer. Let's see. Now you need to go to the playground, text test playground, and then you need to select the model. Now, which model you need to select? Don't go for 821 lab because those are expensive model. But in this lab, we'll be using Nova Pro 2.6, Nova Canvas, Nova Micro. Let's see which model we are going to use. So it's a Nova Pro. select this model, and here you will see on-demand, inference profile, and provision throughout. Which option we need to select here? You need to select the inference profile. So the first step first, you go to the Bedrock, select test, and then select models, and then select the model Nova Pro, and then in the inference you use inference profile. What next? What next is click on the apply. Now you will see something like this Nova Pro. So what's Nova Pro? You are a coding assistant. So uh, try to introduce yourself in the model, enter the following text. You are a coding assistant, and then some text you need to enter, and that's it. So what we are going to do is we're going to enter the text, and then we'll connect after some time. This is the first step. So you log into the network, you log into the console, and after that you log into the Bedrock, then select the model, and then now here you're going to write the simple sentence that I want to build blah 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 site website, and then please build the code for that. So we will join in other video to go for a next step. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. Now we are at this next step. Now we need to build the application. Now, how we are going to build the application? Definitely, we'll ask generative AI this model to build the application. So, what we are going to write here as a prompt is generate an AWS SAM template that deploys a serverless function that meets the following requirements. You need to be very specific about that. Has a parameter named lambda role ARN to supply the lambda function, and the function name can be generative AI, API, or anything, post event source and uses slash for the path. So these are specific to that application. This can be different in your cases. I'm just trying to explain you that what are the main step is. You define the, you connect to the LLM, and then, you write the prompt to build the applications. Now, if I click on the run, it will build some application for me. So this application code I need to write, I need to put on IDE, the development environment, right? So let's check it out, this code, because as a solution architect, a GenAI architect, before you build the application, always get into more details, right? So let's see I will copy this thing, and we will see this thing in more detail. So this is the YAML code, and this is generated by the LLM, right? So what are the important thing that we need to consider here? We need to check here before we proceed is the parameters, very important part. And what are the things we need to look into that? Let's see. So before proceeding, always make sure that parameter named lambda role ARN, serverless function resource API event sources is there. So let's see whether we have those things or not. Yeah, this is something is there. Then type string resources, GenAI app, handler lambda, runtime, role, lambda role ARN, that is there. And the output name API endpoint. So this API endpoint, output name is API endpoint. So these are the things that you need to consider. What are the things? Lambda role ARN. Then we have API event serverless function resource with API event source and resources. We have API event resource source, and then finally we have API endpoint. So looks good. We can proceed with that. If any API endpoint is not there or API event is not there, serverless function resource. So resource is a GenAI app function. This is serverless. This is typically serverless function. And then we have GenAI, Lambda function, Python. So these things should be there. So parameter, resource, and output. We'll have more detailed discussion on that one, but just want to let you know that these are the things that we need to have. Once you are done, once you are reach up to this level, then the next step is we need to get into um, the the Explorer, means the IDE Explorer. We'll get into that in our next video. So far what we have covered is we logged into the console, we select the LLM, then we build code through some LLMs, and then we just verified the code, making sure that we are good from the coding point of view. And then the next step is going to the IDE and then deploy that code, right? Deploy those codes in IDE, and then finally we'll ask Sam to deploy those things in the AWS. So let's disconnect here and then connect again with IDE stuff. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to that the same one where we left. So far what we have done is we have uh, we have logged into the AWS console. We went to the Bedrock and then we logged in. We selected the LLM, the Nova LLM, the AWS Nova 1 LLM, and then once we select the LLM, then we can type that the prompt basically. Where is that prompt? Prompt is here. So this is the prompt that we entered. Generate SAM template that deploys serverless function that meets the following requirement. So that is the prompt that we entered, and after that this our buddy the Nova Lite LLM generate this code. So sometime you need to make sure that code is right. Means how to check that? If you are experienced, then select the best, check the parameters should be lambda role ARN should be valid, and the serverless function resource with an API event sources and then output name API endpoint. But there are other mistakes or changes when your template or your code might be some different, but the final check is once you come here, this is a typical IDE. So once your template is ready, you just click the right click here, new file, and then name that new file as a template YAML and paste that template here. Now, once you paste the template, there is a verification that needs to be performed by AWS before you deploy those things. So for verification, there are simple commands like AWS Cloud Formation, valid templates, and template body, and this one. So this is the kind of a verification. And by the way, before that, you need to make sure that your AWS secret key, access key needs to be installed. I'm not showing here because then I don't want to share my access keys, but the step is something like this. You must you enter the code here and then check the the verification. Once if it is verified completely, then it will show you the parameters and those things. So this is the indication that your code is good. You're ready to proceed with that. Right, guys? Again, I will stop here, and then again we will connect with the next step.